Good afternoon and welcome to Sutter's Institute for Health and Healing. I'm Holly Anton. I'm an integrative psychologist at Sutter's Institute for Health and Healing in Santa Rosa. And this is part 4 of a 4-part series that I've been giving on emotional wellness. So I offer this as part of my practice. This is relevant to what we're talking about today. I offer this as part of my practice. You are here receiving it by your choice, however you got here. And both of us will have to put in a certain type of effort to be present here through this. And there will be some consequence, hopefully positive, for you, for me, and for the other people in our lives. So that's the nut of what this particular part 4 is explicating. We're going to kind of lay this out, how this fits in. So the name of this particular 4th part of the series is community. And what I am meaning by that is what I just said. There is my awareness and acceptance and flexibility in this moment and what that provides to me and to others in my life. There is your awareness and acceptance and flexibility with this moment that benefits you and the others in your life. And there's the rippling effect of that we cannot know. But we can observe how that works between the two of us. And trust that that is probably how this works outside of our relationship, that the intention and the effort that we put in to these practices that cultivate a sense of emotional wellness are really a good idea for all involved. That is to say, others will thank us for developing these practices in our lives. So to recap briefly, part 1 was on the cultivation and the encouragement for you to cultivate a practice of awareness. Awareness is the gateway to emotional wellness. Emotional wellness is this ability to respond to the moment as it actually is, not as we wish it would be, and to respond in such a way that is consistent with our deeper values and that ultimately benefits our long-term best interest. So emotional wellness is a vast collection of skills and strategies to help one understand their own reactions, understand their own feelings, and respond to the moment that is this ever-changing buffet of experiences, sensations, feelings, thoughts, awareness of your environment, the situation of your life, your dreams, your fears, the whole Megillah. So awareness of this moment of your life and the ability to respond to it with a certain degree of acceptance of how it is may not be the way you wished it would be. Awareness of how it actually is, despite your wishes or fears of how you thought it would be. The ability to respond in a more flexible way means I'm willing to give up some of my preconceptions about what this moment was supposed to be or what I was afraid it was going to be. I'm willing to kind of lay down my preconceptions and cultivate some curiosity about what it actually is. And that is surprisingly challenging because it does take a certain level of practice of intention. So practices of awareness might include mindful breaks in your day where you Literally come back to breath and body in the middle of whatever you're doing. Slow down. 3 to 5 breaths, becoming aware of your body, your contact with the environment, your inner world of feelings and sensations. So awareness is benefited by these mindful breaks in the action during the day. Acceptance, being what we covered in part 2, is a type of awareness, actually. It's a specific kind of awareness. It's awareness of this moment, suspending our judgments about it. This intention to perceive as directly as we can what's actually happening within us and around us. And while we are probably inevitably going to have judgments about it, cultivating some practices so those judgments don't necessarily blind us to what's actually happening. Because when we're blinded by our judgments and our preconceptions, our ability to respond accurately to what's actually happening is affected, and often not positively. And again, that has these rippling effects on us, on the people in our lives. So ultimately, it's out of some wisdom about how this all works that starts to develop when you have some practices to help cultivate awareness and the willingness to accept what you become aware of, and the desire to be more flexible in how we respond to the moment, because that simply works better. And this part 4 is about that rippling effect. And one of the biggest obstacles that people often talk with me about when we speak of, okay, these practices, mindful break, a meditation practice, for instance, the common replies are, I really wish I had a better practice. I really wish I had a more consistent. I've always wanted to meditate, but it doesn't seem to work for me. I'm really busy. And when we unpack what a person means by some of that, often what distracts us is a sense of responsibility, really, to do something else, or a worry or a fear that we might be judged if we didn't shift our attention and our energies to something other than awareness and acceptance. Like, how am I supposed to live my life if I'm doing this acceptance awareness thing? So I'm suggesting that one way we can see through some of that judgment of, wait a second, I'm supposed to take time for my practices. How is my practice supposed to benefit anybody? So if it helps you to spend a moment and recognize how it does, at least how it has that great potential to be helpful, not only to you, but to others. And in that way, perhaps helpful to others you will never even meet. That intention and that awareness of like, okay, I am doing this for me, and it just so happens that it's really, really important in how it affects the people in our lives, the people in their lives, our community of human beings. Whether that's our community in the county, our community in the state, our community in this country, our community on this continent, our community on this planet, are part of the entire universe that we actually are. It's possible that your cultivation of practices that support your awareness of the moment, that cultivate your willingness to accept what you notice, your willingness to Lay down the familiar storylines in your mind or the familiar worries or fears or longings or desires so that you can respond to the moment as it's actually calling for. And to feel wholeheartedly certain by experiencing the cause and effect of that, that you are in fact benefiting. You are probably noticing then that you are able to feel more relaxed through your day, less likely to respond irritably, less likely to get speeding tickets, that for sure, more likely to take better care of your body, more likely to notice when others in your environment are struggling with something. So you can rest assured that these practices, by experiencing them, they pay off actually pretty quickly. And so that's worth it. You know, why is it important to carve out and commit to a practice? Yeah, you're going to notice the benefits, but here's this other part that may speak to something deep in you also. Inevitably, we are connected to each other in ways we can clearly see, and in many, many ways that we might not be aware of, even if we tried to be aware of it. But we can at least observe. So my encouragement right now is, so let's just notice what a moment of awareness in this moment, this particular one, as you're listening to this and you're sitting or standing somewhere. So awareness, for instance, of the fact that you're breathing. It was happening all along, you might not have noticed. Notice also as you bring your attention to your breathing, just without breathing any differently, just to the physical sensation of it, notice what happens in your state of mind. When your breathing becomes the focus of your attention, what happens to the state of your mind? And as you notice whatever happens in your mind, you'll notice what's happening in your body too as you bring attention to your breath. You may notice that it's not all relaxed. Maybe you notice that it is. Maybe it's getting a little more relaxed. Maybe it isn't. Notice what it is for you right now. Just awareness of the fact of your breathing and that your body experiences that breath in a certain way. And there's some kind of effect on your mental state as you do this. And if you choose, it's also sometimes a helpful practice to be aware of your environment, of your sensory experiences. What you see, what you hear literally right now, what you feel with your sense of touch. After not too many moments, you may notice a number of things, and one of them probably will be some type of mental activity that has gone somewhere else. Right? So that's the state of human beings for the most part. So here's where the acceptance part comes in. Remember, it's a type of awareness. It's an intentional choice to observe the judgments that you have about this moment. It's too cold. It's too hot. I'm hungry. This woman's talking too slowly, whatever that might be. Or a positive judgment. Oh, this is lovely. I never take time to do this. I should do more of this. So all of that activity. Acceptance doesn't suggest that you try to change that or stop it. Acceptance does ask you to notice it and lay down your judgments about having that mental activity. Lay down your judgments about all these judgments. And recognize as part of acceptance that those judgments really are only a sliver of what's happening right now in this moment. They take up a whole lot of attention usually, but they're actually just a sliver of the big pie. You've got your sensations and your feelings and your awareness of your situation in your life and your internal world and the relationships that you're aware of. And right, there's a whole lot actually happening right now. And your judgments about it, they're here, but they're not the biggest part of the pie, actually. Right? So whatever's going on in my mind, I may think it's the most important thing in the world. And guess what? It may not be. But it will seem like that if I give my full attention to that and I'm really caught up in all of that thought process. I like this, I don't like this, I want more of that, I should be doing that, da 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 da. So part 3 of this 4-part series was flexibility, that if I'm aware and I'm willing to accept what I become aware of as just what's happening, aware that my judgments don't necessarily have to rule the day, that then I have an opportunity, if I want to, respond to this moment somehow as it's actually showing up. What do I mean by respond? Well, what's your next action going to be? Are you going to notice your breath? This is your choice. This is no have to on this. It's one of the options. You could notice what it's like to be you in this moment of your life. And so one of the offerings of the moment, of every moment, near as I can see, one of the offerings is to become aware and notice what challenges are here, what opportunities are here, to sense whether any of these challenges or opportunities of this moment, whether or not some deeper part of you feels like you would you would intend to respond to this moment of challenge and opportunity in a way that feels consistent with who you really are, what you actually want to show up like as a human being in your own life right now. So, and that requires flexibility, remember, because most of our thoughts are judgments. Most of those are trying to reject or alter the moment. And it's pretty hard to respond to the moment as it is if we're super preoccupied with how we think it's supposed to be different. So the sense of importance of this, yes, it's so simple, right? And it is so not easy. And we could say it takes practice, but that's actually kind of funny, because when is that practice going to happen except in some present moment? And in that case, it won't be a practice, it'll be life happening right then, right? You'll just be noticing it. But to that point, when moments are pretty quiet and smooth and it's a quiet room and it's a nice environment and there's some encouragement to practice, I wouldn't say it's easier, but I'd say it's a heck of a lot easier than practicing when somebody's beeping at you at the red light, or you've got a performance review due at your job, or, these more stressful moments. If you haven't spent some time dropping into awareness and acceptance and responding to the moment as it is, if you haven't had a fair amount of moments where you've had a chance to do that, where it's relatively easier, Oh, it is so hard to do it when you're under a lot of stress. Eventually, you can, and you might even hit it lucky and respond effectively without practice, but it does increase your odds. And with all of this, emotional wellness is that ability to understand what your experience is and how that might affect how you're tempted to respond to the moment and give you an opportunity to make a choice. You can respond the way you normally respond. You can choose to respond in some other way once you know that that's possible. So, this practice benefits you in a way I would offer that's going to be pretty easy to see. If you do this regularly and you were to survey those in your life, they mightn't have noticed. Is this effect of this practice always going to make everybody else in your life happy? Perhaps not, because they may be wanting you to do something based on their fears, worries, longings, desires that they're caught up in that moment. So they won't necessarily benefit according to what their longings and fears and desires and wants are. But if your presence and acceptance and flexibility in your moment of your life is in the presence of these folks who are caught in their head, it just so happens that the person with the deepest grounding in an interaction, who's practicing right then in that moment, right in this moment, person with the deepest grounding in themselves tends to kind of calm the interaction. It is helpful. Others who are in a distressed state will often align with that. So sometimes you can see that effect on others very directly. Sometimes you may be asked to take that on a certain level of faith or based on past experience, that kind of thing. So as a community, I think we can know that we're doing something to help the larger social group when we are doing these things that help us respond to this moment in our own true, considered way. And it is something that we can always do in whatever situation we find ourselves. And it is something that you can count on allowing you to be more relaxed, more flexible, more heartful, more skillful, more compassionate to yourself, to the other beings around you. So, on that note, awareness and acceptance of this very moment, noticing how you're choosing to respond, and hopefully pleasuring in the realization that we all benefit when you benefit from this. And I can just say, thanks. I know you're helping yourself. I know you're helping somebody else. So, on that note, I'm going to close for now. Thanks for spending this time with me. I hope you come back and enjoy one of our other wellness classes that we offer here with at Sutter's Institute for Health and Healing. My name's Holly Anton. I'm a psychologist here at the Institute for Health and Healing in Santa Rosa. And I wish you a lovely moment and invite you back for another time. So long.